All right, so Kingpin is putting together a crazy plan to stop Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Green Goblin. Peter finds out something really eerie about his suit, and Tony Stark, aka Ironlad, delivers an interesting detail that he has not shared before. Welcome back to Keepin' the Comic, and today we're gonna be picking up on Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 8. So picking up from the last issue here, Peter and Harry, the Green Goblin, have just met Tony Stark for the first time after he scared the crap out of them while coming through a portal about 3 weeks ago. Funny enough, the first thing that Peter wanted to know was why Peter's suit is so different from Harry's and even Tony's for that matter. To which Tony lets him know that it was the last breakthrough that his father Howard had made. He tells Peter that his suit is Picotech and that when he was putting together the packages to send back to the people that the maker had stopped from becoming heroes, that he thought this revolutionary tech should be sent to someone special. So Tony explains to Peter and Harry that in this database that the maker had created, that there was a list of people that were considered mission critical, meaning that these people had to be erased from history. On top of that list was Peter Parker, that special someone, which only leads me to think about who else might be at the top of that list. Because as far as the Ultimates are concerned that Tony has been recruiting to go up against the Maker, we so far have Thor, we have Captain America, we have Giant Man, we have the Wasp, we have Reed Richards Doom, and then most recently we have She-Hulk. So the question is, like, who else is on top of this list? I guess we'll have to wait to find out. So Harry, of course, feels some type of way about this whole thing and says to Tony, "You better not be lying," which Tony tells him, "I'm not. Also, who are you supposed to be in that stolen suit?" So then Tony walks over to him and touches the suit and then takes off his mask for him. Very reminiscent of when Harry did that same thing to Peter Parker in an earlier issue of this series, which is why Peter says, "See, not so cool when someone else does it, is it?" So Tony, he recognizes that this is Harry Osborn, and then he tells him that you stole my birthright, which leads to a back and forth between both of them here. Harry tells him that, listen, I paid for it, because we already know that Harry owns both Oscorp here and he owned Stark State. Did you hear my Jamaican accent come out there? But either way, Tony calls it pennies on a dollar, and then Harry says, well, it's fair price considering the company is run by traitors, which is not the total truth, but who needs to be right in this little pissing contest here? So eventually, right, this leads to Tony telling them that the Maker will be returning in over a year and they need to get themselves ready. Now, back to this list, Harry just can't let it go. He's like, he wants to know where he was on that list, to which Tony lets him know, bruh, you weren't on it at all. But that doesn't matter now because there are bigger issues that need to be taken care of. And then he tells them that he will be in touch. And I gotta be honest, this has definitely left some Green Goblin villain art breadcrumbs, and I cannot wait to see come to fruition. So back to the current day here, Peter and MJ, they're getting ready to celebrate their kid's birthday party or birthday at a party, Richard and May. The most interesting thing that happens here is that after MJ had asked Peter to get the cake and the candles, when he decides to leave his Picotech suit at home because he had said that there's a strict no costume policy for this party, because remember, you know, the kids and the family, they all know now that he is Spider-Man. The suit then says to him, well, that's disappointing, but tell the kids that I said happy birthday, which of course naturally freaks Peter the heck out, right? Because for context now, well, let's jump back here. Like for context, in the previous issue here, Otto Octavius had discovered that both Harry and Peter's suit had access to an AI profile that they could use as an aid. Harry had selected to use his dad, while Peter chose to use himself. So this voice right now that is talking to Peter is basically Peter himself as an AI voice. So Peter asks the question, he's like, yo, how are you talking right now? Which the AI lets him know, bro, I talk all the time. In fact, we've had plenty of conversation. And Peter's like, yeah, but I only expect to hear you when I'm wearing the suit, my guy. So the suit kind of like messes with him a little bit here and is like, well, I'm actually not talking out loud. You're actually imagining this, which I just thought was really funny, which of course, you know, freaks him out a little bit here. And then once he realizes that, you know, he's being messed with, he's like hilarious. And people think I'm not funny. Now, the reason why to me this is so funny is because the AI Peter talks too much, but it also makes bad jokes. So this thing basically has Peter Parker down pat. But this also gives off the same vibes as like the Venom symbiote talking to Peter Parker. It's like, it's so eerie in a way, right? And with like the same like black background and white text, it just has the same vibe, which by the way is a current thing right now in the 616 if you're watching the Venom War series, where Peter is kind of working his way to being bonded back with the Venom symbiote. He's wearing a suit, but he's not fully bonded yet. We'll talk about that later. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a playlist on my channel where you can actually go ahead and watch those things. So the suit lets him know, I am a perfect replica of Peter's psyche that is housed in a very independent and completely adaptable Pico shell. So Peter wants to know, like, yo, what else can you do that I do not know about? Which the suit then tells him, I can do all kinds of things, Peter. See, it's like that Venom vibe again. You know what I mean? Like the Venom vibe. So Peter puts it back down and says, we got to talk about this later, which then the suit says, I look forward to it. And please remember to wish the kids a happy birthday for me. It's so good, man. Now, later on, real quick, Peter meets up with Ben and Jonah to get the cake and the candles that MJ had asked him to get. The only main thing that happens here, though, is that Ben and Jonah ask Peter to join their new company, The Paper. Peter pushes back a little bit because he's like, listen, I am still working at the Bugle. I've been there for 10 years. I got my 401k. Like, I'm kind of good right now. But he does sort of kind of leave the door open a little bit and says that he first needs to talk with MJ. And Ben's like, listen, let's let her know that you're going to be getting a raise. So they eventually get, or they all make it to the party here. That, by the way, is at a place called Arcades, with the word that stands like right over to the right of it, which I think is like a nice little touch because I assume it is a tribute to Stan Lee. And Peter Parker and May right now, they're inside and they're having some fun, doing some like Dance Revolution stuff. Jonah shows his soft side a little bit here by giving a gift to Peter's son Richard, which was a book that Jonah had published as an author. They both bond over their love for reading and Jonah having a similar childhood to Richard's. And then later, this party is essentially culminated by this loving, like this really nice group picture here with an arcade game, by the way, that has the words on top of it that read Secret War in the background. Now, coincidence? I think not. So now we're on to Fisk and his plan, right? So over at the Fisk Tower, he's starting to round up a group of interesting individuals that are heads of the 5 boroughs of New York. First up is Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative. And then next up here, we see Walter Hardy, aka the Black Cat. And by the way, take a look at Felicia Hardy in that picture. Then there is Sergei Kravinoff, aka Kraven. And then there's Mysterio as Mysterio. There's like he's like the only character that did not get any sort of like a backstory throughout this whole thing, which I think was like Hickman's way of like sticking directly to the name of the mystery of Mysterio. And then finally we have Mole Man, and with that Secret War word citing from earlier, kind of has me thinking like, what exactly is Hickman cooking up right now? Then Kingpin finally states to the group how the city is his. What I got, I've divided and I've given to all of you a portion of it, right? And then he says that there is an infestation that needs to be taken care of. And then we can see a picture down below of Spider-Man and Green Goblin in this like folder. And then Kraven asks the question, well, do you prefer the 6 of us to catch them or should we kill them? Which then Kingpin says, I was thinking we could make a game of it. And ladies and gentlemen, here is your Sinister Six of the Ultimate Universe right now in Spider-Man's neighborhood. And I think the way that Hickman is using this sort of like building block of the Sinister Six to prepare Peter for the eventual time when he will have to play a big part against the Maker is kind of a way to kind of get him ramped up, right? Kind of like fast forward his story in sort of a way. I think overall this was a good story. A lot of continual setup though, and I think a lot of us are getting very antsy, wanting to see more action here, wanting to see us more get into some things. But I think that the stage has been set, and we probably should start seeing some things ramp up from here. At least I'm hoping so, especially with like Peter meeting Tony. Now we have the Sinister Six and all. I definitely think that things should start to really kind of ratchet it up, you know, to another level here. Hey, listen, like this video for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel for more here, and join the Discord so that you can kind of communicate with me here outside of YouTube. Also give your suggestions so we could just overall talk comics. Appreciate you guys watching. And as always, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin the Comic.